Hey, we are back. Hey, what's up?
Yo, how's it going?
Hey, Kyle, what's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Going snazzy. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Getting ready to go to Europe on Thursday.
Yo, that is awesome. Very jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Mikey Demas actually wanted me to say hello to you because you guys are touring, I believe.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I love Mikey.
He's awesome. I just interviewed him recently. He's a good dude. He's
Yeah.
at UK, so that's cool. I just want to jump right in if that's cool.
Yeah,
Just
I'm good.
about what you got going on because you're a busy guy. You a busy dude.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're going over to Europe with Skindred and Volbeat on Thursday. We're doing a festival in Sweden on Saturday, and then we kick off, it's like I think like 7 weeks with Volbeat and Skindred.
Whew. Yeah, that's a long run. That's going to be awesome, though.
And then we have a string of about 5 or 6 UK headline dates at the tail end. So altogether, with the three different things that we're doing over there, it turns out to be about 2 months straight over there.
Dang. Do you guys have a day in between each show, or is it just like boom, 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 boom?
No. There's definitely going to be days off. Most bands of Volbeat's caliber, they don't have to play shows every single day, and it's
Right.
good to get some rest in between shows to make sure that you're rested up so you can give the best performance that you can. So I think it's like 2 shows on, day off, 2 shows on, day off. It'll be,
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
the
won't
most
be too trying.
the most I've done is like 6 in a row, but it like really tears up my vocal cords. I gotta.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about your recent adventures. One of them was the Rockzilla tour, and that was with Papa Roach, Falling in Reverse, and the Hollywood Undead.
Mm.
Um, in your words, a rock and roll summer camp. Uh,
Yeah.
so what was your experience like? Tell me a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of go into your more recent endeavors.
Well, actually, funny enough, just a little sidestep there. I actually went to elementary school, middle school, and high school with with one of the guys from Hollywood Undead, and then I went to high school with like 2 or 3 of the guys from Hollywood Undead. So it's, kind of like a full circle moment of, growing up with people coming from your hometown and being able to go on the road with them. But other than that, those shows were really great. I love touring with Hollywood Undead, like I said, because of, the how long I've known those guys, and I've watched them go from like, doing nothing to doing everything. I was working at a sporting goods store, and I don't remember what Super Bowl it was, but when they debuted the Undead song for their first record, and it was on like the GI Joe soundtrack or something.
Nice.
But yeah, so it's always good to tour with friends, and this is our first time playing with Falling in Reverse, and I really got close with Tyler from Falling in Reverse. I think he's a super talented bass player. I think he's an amazing singer too, because he does a lot of the backup harmonies and he does a lot of screaming. And everyone in that band is just super top tier. Like they're all great dudes, all great players, and they really bring it live. And Papa Roach has been amazing to us. We've been going out with them since 2019, and they're one of my favorite bands to tour with. It's funny. It's almost like that it's like going out with like your cooler, bigger brother.
Yeah.
Um, when we go out with Papa Roach, and they're the sweetest dudes in the world to us, and that we couldn't ask for a better band to kind of to have been taking us out this year. Especially since we've had a couple years off, because of everybody knows, and the and being able to go out with a band that brings it every single night, but is also some of the sweetest dudes on the planet, the most genuine dudes on the planet. Like there's not like a rock star ego I've seen in any of those guys, and I just think that they're some of the sweetest dudes out there.
Nice. They seem like chill guys, I gotta say. They
Hmm.
seem like low key and fun to hang out with for sure.
Oh yeah, me and Tony Palermo and Twan and Tobin. Yeah, I love all those guys. And
Nice.
Jacoby is wise. Jacoby is like he's like he's like the Splinter of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles wise, but like not like an old way, but he's I don't know, like he's been through it all, you know, like
A bit of an
those guys.
I guess maybe.
I wouldn't really say that. It's just like he's been touring, and you know, he's experienced everything because he went from, you know, being a really, really young guy, like late teens, early 20s, and having a hit record and going through all the motions. I just feel like if you have an issue on the road, like Jacoby is the one who could like help you get through it, you know?
Got you. So, like talking about, you know, being on the road and all of that good stuff, you have quite the stacked lineup of like over the pond rippers with your friends Volbeat and Skindred, as you said.
Yeah.
But yes, another shout out to Mikey because he's really cool. Is there a rig that all of you guys like to use on stage, or do you use like very different setup?
All of us use a pretty different setup. We're kind of we've always been that way for the most part. Doc is using Kemper's. I use the Quad Cortex from Neural DSP, and Max is a Axe Effects guy.
Mm-mm.
But I think after this last tour, I think we're all kind of peeking in and thinking about going the Axe FX 3 route, especially the new one that they just came out with they have the Axe FX 3 Plus Turbo, which I guess has like
Mm.
50% more DSP possibilities
Wow.
than the original Axe FX 3. But other than that, most of us are, when it comes to like ear rigs and guitar wireless, we're all the same thing. It's a Sennheiser, the Sennheiser G4s for guitars and the G3s for in-ears. And Max, I believe, is on JH Audio in-ears. Me, Doc, and DL are on 64 Audio.
Yeah, the in-ears have to be a must. You need them, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we haven't played with cabinets since like mid 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So not having amps on stage, I mean, you know, we could do it without the in-ears, but why would you? You know, all of our slates and our click track and stuff is in our ears, and
Uh-huh.
you know, and it's having your own personal mix. And for me, a guy who's been using earplugs for playing shows up until I started using in-ears in 2019, um, you know, it just makes sense. And you know, you don't really have to carry a lot of gear, and it's nice, especially since um, you know, try to, you know, keep costs down and, you know, keep things nice and easy. And pretty much our rig that we use in the States is the exact rig that we're going to be using overseas. And we wouldn't be able to do that if it was a bunch of, you know, massive amps and cabinets
Yeah,
and
fact.
stuff like that. So having a rig consistency that you can bring with you all over the world is a very valuable thing, because that was the one thing I was never able to replicate before using modeling. Was I have pedal board, but you know, I use EBS amps, and you know, they don't, the backline companies all over the world sometimes don't have those. So it's like, like when we went to Australia with Nickelback, you know, they didn't have any EBS stuff that I could rent from them down there. So
Mhm.
you know, I had to use some different things, but you know, it was a completely different sound. It just wasn't as consistent as I would like it to. But with the modelers, it's your whole rig is in a box, you know, and the gear is getting good enough with the technology that, you know, you don't really need full amps anymore. Is it cool to have them still? Absolutely. Like we still have amps and stuff in our rehearsal room, and if we ever want to do that, you know, we it's possible. But I think, you know, like as I'm as time progresses, and I'm gonna try out the Axe FX 3 and see if I like it. But you know, just having the quad cortex and being able to capture like stuff that you typically like, all of my sounds that I use live for the most part are plugins.
Right.
So I've captured some of the Neural DSP plugins on the quad cortex,
Mm-hmm.
and so without having to bring a laptop, there's no other way for me to get those sounds. And I just having the consistency, like I said, every single night. Your rig doesn't sound different. You know, rooms will always sound different, but having everything be exactly the same at square one when you walk through the door is just it's invaluable.
Right on. Consistency is super important for live shows, 100%. But yeah, a lot of people are going like, you know, their amps are great, but a lot of people are kind of stepping away from that route, which
I'm old. They're heavy.
I know,
My
yeah.
back already
I'm
sucks.
I'm not old, but like I have noodle arms, so like that's why I'm considering ditching the amp, you know, but
Yeah, and I don't know, like uh you know, maybe if we're ever to be as like big as like Shinedown or something like that, like maybe we can go back to the amps. But I mean, right now, I open up my Pelican. It takes me 30 seconds to set my amp up
wow.
because I open up. It's a pedal. I have a Pelican Air 1615. I
Hmm.
open that up, pull my pedal board out, plug it in. My wireless, my compressor, and my quad cortex is all on one board. It literally takes me 30 seconds. If I didn't have a wireless to like scan, I could be up and running and playing in less than a minute.
That's convenient.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
easy. And I'm lazy and I'm old. Like I said, I don't want to hurt myself more than I already am. Like my shoulder's messed up right now. My back's messed up right now. You
yeah,
know,
care yourself, man, for sure. But your band Bad Wolves has gone through quite the transformation as you have a new vocalist. I really hope I don't butcher his name, Daniel DL Laskowitz.
yep. Daniel Laskowitz. Yeah, DL.
Yay! So
Yeah.
as new members, it can be both beneficial and challenging when it comes to the development of a group sound. Has adding a new singer changed your playing style in any way, or has it generally stayed the same, would you say?
No, the one thing, it hasn't really changed the way that I approach music or play or anything like that. But DL is a very consistent guy as well, and he's also a very talented producer, and he's one of my favorite guitar players. He's just an amazing musician all around, and I think you know with him coming in, he knew that he was stepping into you know Bad Wolves, so it was kind of there was already a prerequisite of a sound but
Mm-hmm.
he was able to you know add a little bit more of a like of his flavor to it and you know he is his own singer and he brings his own sound um and you know he sang in you know like church choirs and stuff when he was a kid so
Gotcha.
um you know and it was something that nobody really knew that he could do and then when he started putting out stuff, you know, with Legend and he would put out covers and stuff like that, people were like, "Oh, who's singing?" He goes, "Oh, me." And they're like, "Oh, really?" Because I remember uh, DL was the first person to send us any sort of audition. And I remember, and not to discount anybody else who had tried out for the band, because we had some of the most talented singers try out for our band.
Yeah.
But DL sent us DL sent us within I think you know a day or two had sent us a song with him on it, and from the beginning I was like this is the guy. You know I was 100% sure of it. I'm just like just the way that he just his sound and the way that he sings is like I was like I think this will be a perfect fit.
So
Now,
he really just put the bar that high. Like,
I mean for me, yeah,
yeah. Uh-huh.
I felt like his vocal range and you know his timbre was I was like that's the guy you know and like I said not to discount any of the other singers that tried out for us because they're all great but I kind of knew from the beginning that that DL would be the the best fit um, and like I said you know the only thing that's really like changed as far as you know writing music is we have another great guitar player in the band another great producer another great songwriter and you know who's also the singer of the band so you know we can actually keep things a little bit more in-house now instead of like going to the you know professional studio to demo out something or if we want to get something mixed up real quick, DL can do all that. Like I said, he's a man of many hats, and he wears those hats very well.
He's a wizard.
Yeah, he is.
Hey, nice. Well, it was meant to be. He's a great fit. I think it's great for your band. I'm always like rooting for you guys and cheering you on. All that good
Oh,
stuff.
thanks much. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man. I want to like shout out your own podcast because you have hosted your own podcast, interviewing skilled players. I remember I was one of your guests that was on
Yeah.
Spot. What are a couple things that you've taken away from those interviews that you've applied to your own playing, whether that be one's practice techniques or their gear? And who did you pick these things up from?
Um, so like as far as the podcast goes, I'd been kind of on a hiatus. We had an album that we were like in the middle of writing, and we had a whole bunch of stuff going on internally with the band that was not so public that, I can't really talk about.
I respect.
And but I think with all that stuff going on, it was just time for me to just take a break for a bit. And I will eventually get back to, season 2 of the STFU podcast. But honestly, anyone I brought on there was like amazing for me. And having the ability to get, different personalities and different players, like yourself and, Aaron Bruck from Breaking Ben and Mike Kruger from Nickelback, and even being able to interview our, the Bad Wolves crew. I did our old sound guy, Robbie Brown, and our old guitar tech, Tim, who now plays bass for my new favorite band, Alluvial.
Oh, great
Uh,
for him.
and yeah, and Johnny Concannon, who is still our drum tech. It's nice to just, I like to talk, I like having conversations with people. And I really think that, especially during that time when there was no touring, there was like, lockdowns, COVID, stuff like that. It was one of the things that really helped me keep busy, helped me keep sane. And, is being able to have these conversations, whether it being like over Zoom or, sometimes we would do them in person if, the other person was comfortable with it. I think I did a couple in-person podcasts over COVID, but most of them were done via Zoom. And when you do it via Zoom, it opens up a whole broader audience for you, because you don't have to be in the same room. You don't have to be in the same city. You don't even have to be on the same continent. It opens up so many more opportunities and abilities to reach different audiences and have great conversations with different people from all over the world. So, I mean, eventually I will get back to it. I've been trying to think of like how I wanted to do the next season, but I mean, we'll see what happens. Because I have so many other interests besides music. I love movies and I love video games, and it's like there are so many music podcasts out there, and that's not discredit any of them. They're all amazing. Like my guitar player Doc has an amazing podcast, the X-Man podcast.
Oh, cool. Gotta check that out.
And like Josta has a great podcast. There's Finn McKenty with the Punk Rock MBA, stuff like that. But I'm trying to figure out other avenues that I'm interested in, and maybe other people might be interested who are maybe also fans of me or fans of the band or what have you, and try to do something a little bit different and not just be, I don't know. I feel like oversaturated market, people might not care as much as if, you're doing, so he's like, oh, well, there's this metal bass dude, he's talking about video games and comic books and stuff like that. It might be a little bit more interesting than hearing me talk to the same 5 people that just did all those other podcasts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you gotta spice it up and you gotta add different stuff. And that's like right after you. I don't know. Are you into horror movies? Maybe.
Yeah.
Have you watched Terrifier? Like Art the Clown?
Oh yeah, Art the Clown. Yeah.
Tomorrow, actually.
Oh, sick.
Following yours. So he's the first like actual like full-time actor that I'm bringing on, because I've interviewed Hayden and he was on Glee and This Is Us, etc. But it was mostly music-based acting. Him with his guitar like filling in.
Yeah.
like you, I kind of want to branch out a little bit because there's more out there than just the music realm.
Yeah,
And
there's a wide world out there of options and opportunities. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one thing and getting, and like I said, being as diverse as you can with guests and conversations and stuff like that. It's only going to make you better as a host, and
mhm.
that you be able to have all these different experiences that maybe you wouldn't have if you stuck to just one thing.
Yeah, dude, for sure. And hey, if you ever do the podcast again, I'd be willing to come on and chat because I'm a chatter.
Thank you, thank you,
You can.
appreciate it.
So, do you have any pre-show rituals or bass exercises that you do to warm up? Do you have any go-tos, or do you just kind of get on stage and you're like, yeah, let's do?
Man, I'm so bad with this, and all of my bass homies would probably be very upset at me for this, but I do a little stupid run while I'm on stage, just stretching my hips and stuff like that, and I just do that. But other than that, I'm ready to go. Pre-show rituals, nothing really. Typically, Doc will, we have like this big Bluetooth speaker, and Doc will, put on a playlist of something, and we'll kind of jam out to some music before we get ready to do that. And then, but other than that, no. I mean, we do the pre-show rip, which is me yelling like a professional wrestler to get everybody hyped up for the show, and then we go out and play. That's pretty much it.
I love it. Sometimes you just gotta live spontaneously.
Yeah.
Fact. All right. So, bass guitar is that like low end that provides that like a tune with the most essential rhythmic and harmonic foundation. So, how do you personally go about creating your bass lines? Do you just play whatever comes to your head, or do you have a certain process for writing? Tell me a little bit.
Well, you know, it really depends. So I've only played on a few songs that we've recorded. The way that typically our songs are written, it's inefficient to have someone else to come in because John and Max and Doc and anybody else that we're working with could be writing stuff. So I played on a couple of songs on the last record, but typically what I do if I'm writing stuff, because I do play stuff differently than is typically on the record, is I kind of just feel it out, and obviously I don't want to overplay and you don't want to underplay, but I'd rather underplay than overplay. So I just kind of think of what suits the song, and sometimes I just throw random stuff in there, but I kind of give it my own personal flair of like, this is how I would have done it. But also when you record stuff, you might not have had enough time with it. So, a lot of guys, guitar players, lead guitar players, like they'll change solos. Like, oh, this is how they played on the record, but they play it differently live and they wish they would have recorded it like that. So it's kind of like that as well. But, going into album number 4, I'm, I'm I'm writing bass lines and stuff, and I'm trying to keep up with all the demos the guys are sending me. I think we have like 10 or 11 demos right now. So I if I'm not at home, I have a couple of different programs. Um, so it's like if I'm like traveling for my job at home, or if I'm on a plane or something and there's a new song that's sent to me, I use a couple of different tools from Submission Audio, which are like MIDI bass things. So I have the Jacob Umansky bass and I have the Simon Grove bass. And so typically if I'm in an area where if I can't get a bass guitar with me, I always have this little 24 key Akai mini keyboard that I keep on me, and I can use that to write, and the piano roll and Logic and stuff like that.
Oh,
So, oh, Jacob, I was just talking about you. I was just talking about your Submission Audio bass.
hey.
Uh,
And oh, he did. I see a Jacob. I'll wave.
but yeah, so basically when I can't really get a bass around my neck and we're listening to stuff, or writing stuff, I use the Submission Audio stuff, and it can help me write. Or if there's like a part that I'm thinking of and I have a bass in my hand, something that might be a little too technical for me at the time, instead of moving on and writing something that uh, might be not what I really wanted to write, I can plug it into Jacob Umansky's plugin or Simon Grove's plugin, and kind of learn it later,
Yeah.
but I mean, it sounds so real that, especially Jacob, because he and I both use Dingwalls. So, having a Dingwall sound that I can, plug in with my piano roll or plug in with my Akai keyboard has been super invaluable because, if I'm in the if the mood strikes me, because I carry my laptop and my MIDI keyboard with me everywhere I go. If I'm at work, if I'm anywhere, if I come up with an idea, I want to be able to replicate it then and there so I don't forget it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so typically that's how they've been writing. I know Doc, Max, and John, between all these tours, and we were writing on this last tour with Papa Roach and Falling in Reverse. They've been really hitting it hard, and I've been throwing ideas in there too, and I've had a couple writing sessions with John as well, and I'm really excited to see what kind of comes out. You know.
Yeah, I'm stoked too. It's gonna be good shit. Good shit. Yeah, no, that's the perfect way to do it because musicians, I mean, I'm sure you know, when an idea strikes, it's best to either write it down or record it
I'll
right then.
forget it. I'll forget it, and I'll forget the idea in 15 seconds.
Yeah, and even
If
if you tell yourself that you're gonna remember it, it's
you
probably
won't,
likely, right?
no, you won't.
Yeah, you will. We live and we learn.
Yeah.
So, what is your go-to bass right now, or like the most favorite that you've in your whole entire life?
So right now I'm touring with I have Dingwall Combustion 5 strings. I've been using those on tour with Bad Wolves since 2018, and I switched over to them exclusively in 2017. Um, I use the Combustion 5 string 3, which has the 3 pickups. Sorry, excuse me. Um, I'm gonna have a couple of new guys on this Volbeat tour though. One is a Dingwall. It's one of their custom Canadian customs. It is a Dingwall Super P,
No.
uh, and I've dubbed it Super Pinot because I designed it to be kind of like my tribute to Pino Palladino. It's a matte Fiesta red. It has a Wenge board and neck, and it's a P bass. So I'll be bringing that on the Volbeat tour. Super excited for that. And then there's also going to be something a little new and a little special that has not been announced yet. But it's a little something that maybe me and Dingwall have been putting together for the last 3 years. I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see.
Ooh, a signature maybe?
I don't know what you're talking about, but maybe.
Hmm. Debatable. Like, so yeah, guys, follow Kyle if you don't get it too. All right, let's get into it. I know people like to talk about a bit of the technical stuff too. Some bassists like to play using a pick, and others play with their fingers. Many say there's more control that way, making for a richer tonal variety. So
Hmm.
if you pick, which one would you recommend to other players? And if you don't, why is picking with your fingers your preferred way of playing?
Well, I'm a pick guy. I've always been a pick guy.
Cool.
And I really think that, I mean, I use all types of techniques, and I really think it's the one of, like, that is a super like subjective thing. Is there are guys I know who play with their fingers, like Jacob Umansky again, Killian Duarte, but guys who are kind of like hybrid players, like myself, like Nate Navarro, Clay Gobber from Polyphia, and honestly, I think whatever works for you, do it. For some people it's easier to use fingers and they have more control that way. For me, I'm able to kind of pick gauges to give me the control that I would need. Like I typically use lighter pick gauges. I know a lot of guys who use picks that play bass use 73s or 88s or ones and stuff like that. But I use the .60 millimeters. I think the one pick that we all started out on, the orange Tortex. Um, but I use the big triangle ones of those, and I get my custom ones made through Intune. But the one thing that I've really noticed is the bass player community is a very tight knit community. Like for the most part, I don't think we're in competition with each other. And I've taken lessons from Jacob Umansky, and I've asked Killian to get lessons from him to just kind of like see how all these guys do and how all these guys play. And Jacob was he was very he's a very great teacher, but he does it in a way to where you don't feel like an idiot when you can't play something, because as coming from, I'm a self-taught guy who's always played with a pick. I wanted to kind of learn more of like how music theory works. And, as I'm getting older, it's a little harder to retain that information. But I really just think getting into different types of bass players and getting into and asking your fellow bass players, how they do stuff or how they write, is a super invaluable tool. And being able to have these friends, like Jacob and Killian and Nate Navarro and all these amazing guys, James Leach, has really kind of opened up my playing to a whole new level. And although I may not use everything I've learned with Jacob, it's something I've added to my repertoire. And then now I'm paying attention to guys like Clay Gobber. I was never really I was like, I was a Polyphia fan, but I never really, sat down and like paid attention to it. And as I I listened to a couple records when I was like driving, not, a couple months ago or whatever. And I was like, all this very percussive movements. I was like, that can't be the bass. And then so I was like, who's the bass player? And I looked up all these videos and I'm like, oh man, this guy is like,
Oh,
I was like, oh, like he's like me. He's a hybrid player. And
yep, yep.
and I was paying attention to how he plays and stuff. And I was like, why did I never think of chicken picking when I was going from picking to slapping? I was like, that's the easiest. That would be the easiest transition, to just shoving a pick in my mouth like I normally do, and then using my thumb and my fingers to slap and pop. I was like, he's chicken picking, so he never has to drop his pick. I was like, I don't know why I never thought of that. So I'm trying to practice that a little bit more, but he's very precise with it. He can
Very, very.
he's using all of his fingers. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I gotta practice that. I've been meaning to hit him up and be like, yo, Clay, like, give me something so I can practice this.
that. Yeah. They're just so innovative all around, Polyphia.
Yeah. But
Nobody before them had their sound, and just
yeah.
their everything down to their technique, to their musicality, to their, just the way they can make such a memorable melody, but still have all this intricate stuff in there. It's just kind of unbelievable, I gotta say. I love their new record.
It's great.
Just quality shit.
But yeah, so I think, I don't really think one style is better than another. And I think do what suits you, like I know,
right.
There's guys who play with fingers because it's easier for them, with hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. And then I know guys who started playing with a pick because, they could hit harder because they didn't have a loud amp. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think do whatever suits you. But I would always suggest, at least taking a few lessons, learning a little bit about the instrument, because it's not just guitar with 4 strings or 5 strings. There's a whole other world. And it took me a very long time to kind of like, because when I started playing bass, I was a guitar player playing bass.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to transition to like, for me to be like a full-on professional bass player. But once I did, it was like, oh, this like, we're the backbone, we're the rhythm, we're the, we're the thing that hits you in the chest, So it's a lot more of an important thing than people realize.
Yeah, it would feel so empty without a bass, yo. It would feel thin.
It does.
Thin.
It does.
Weird. For sure. So, picks, 2 strings. Want to talk one more piece of gear here. So every player has like a preference for the string gauges too, which I'm talking about like the picks and everything, right? Just the pick aspect. So for bass, it's a general rule of thumb that heavier gauges sound warmer and more resonant, while lighter strings are like easier to play fast on. Maybe, could be wrong. I'm not a bassist. But your favorite strings to play on, like favorite brand, and why?
So unfortunately, with Bad Wolves, I took a page out of Adam Nolly Getgood's um, book, from Periphery, and I like to keep the octave relationship with the bass guitar and the guitars.
Okay.
So with that being said, we tune as low as G and F sharp for a lot of our songs. So having to tune that low, which is one of the reasons why I use Dingwall, is because I can have perfect intonation on my instrument. And
Oh, did we lose them?
oh,
Oh,
am I back?
you're back.
Okay.
Okay.
What was the last thing you heard?
Something about Dingwall?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I use Dingwall, is because
Yeah.
I have to tune so low. I can have great intonation, and I know for a fact that that instrument can handle those low tunings. So
Mhm.
right now with our G tuning, I kind of flip flop between brands. I use this company from the UK called New Tone Strings. They do custom bass strings. I also use Payson, which they also make Dingwall size strings, because you have to have specific strings for the five strings. Unfortunately, they're hard to fit because my low B is a 37-inch scale. Um,
Yeah, I bet.
so right now I'm kind of flip flopping between Payson and New Tone, and I use a 160 for my low G, 125 for the C, and I think it's like 90, 70, 50. And then for F sharp, I'm using a 170, and my B for that is a 130. So yeah, I just have telephone poles for telephone wires for strings.
I was
So
gonna say you might need some pretty hefty strings there. Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome, though. I only have one more question. So, usually, what I do at the end is I open it up to audience questions if they have any. So, before I ask this one last question, you guys, if you have any questions for Kyle here, you can either
yeah,
comment below, or I believe there's actually like a question tab somewhere down here. But
yeah. There's a little question box.
yeah, there should be a question box, so I'll leave that open. But in the meantime, tell me about your ventures for the future and what you're working on. Do you have any solo projects musically alongside Bad Wolves, or is that like your like ultimate focus? Like you are the Bad Wolves guy.
I'm one of the Bad Bulls guys. Um, uh, I'm always trying to write music, and I'm always trying to keep myself busy. And I have many other interests in music besides just rock and metal and stuff like that. So I mean, I'm always writing different stuff, and I send everything. Typically, I write um, to John, my drummer, or other friends who are producers and stuff like that, and I try to get as much input and feedback as I can. I have a few kind of like more death metal songs that I've been kind of keeping to myself, but I've also been really interested in electronic music.
Nah,
So I've been
that's
writing a lot of electronic music for the past couple of years, and I have a couple of writing partners. One of them is Tony Kim from the band Dance with the Dead,
cool.
and they're kind of like a dark wave band. It's like synth wave, but with it's kind of like a metal band but synth wave. Um, and he's really been helping me with my electronic production, songwriting, stuff like that. And who knows? I'm writing a bunch of stuff, and
Good.
we'll see what the future brings. I try to write stuff for me. I try to write stuff for my EDM stuff, and then I try writing stuff for Bad Wolves, and I kind of just see where that stuff takes me. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I haven't put like a 100% focus into a solo thing. But if in the next few years, if something like that were to happen, that'd be cool. Obviously, I would do it in my Bad Wolves downtime. Um, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I love electronic stuff too. So like if you ever need a vocalist,
Yeah, for sure.
or like hit me up, yo. Definitely love to do that anytime. Gonna check into the questions here. I see that we have one from Christine
That's
Ann.
my that's my girlfriend. And
No.
Christine, I can't talk about it right now, my love.
Yeah.
It hasn't been announced.
So, yeah, she wants you to tell the audience about your signature bass.
I can't. They haven't announced it yet. I don't even know what you guys are talking
Oh,
about.
that's the one that I was like, maybe there's one coming. Well, everybody, you might as well stay tuned with Kyle because he may or may not be having a signature something coming out.
Maybe. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens, right? We'll see. But yes, it looks like that may be it for the questiones. Somebody said crank up some metal.
I'm not at my house right now. There's no metal to be
What
cranked up here.
what do you want to hear? I mean, I'm right by my laptop. What's your guys' like newest single?
Um,
Bad
well,
Wolves.
so there we have the Body EP, which has the body up in smoke. What else? Yeah, I think it's the one that with the praying hands.
Okay, I
Uh,
see it. Okay, so I'm gonna end this stream with playing a little Bad Wolves for you, which I don't even typically do, but I'm on my laptop right now.
there we go. Yeah, Up in Smoke. It's a great song. It's one of my
Yeah,
favorite
and then
Bad
I
Wolf songs,
have
actually.
my camera bouncing on a little Sebastian, so that's fun. Oh yeah, man. I'm gonna take a quick hit. Got a good voice.
Yeah, I love DL's voice.
We're gonna go to the chorus, guys. Oh, I like the interlude here. That's cool. I'm gonna take one more hit. Hey. Oh, dude, I love the tones in there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like our signature. Well, it's not ours, but it's Max's signature tone. For a lot of some people who don't know, our original guitar player Chris Kane, he decided that he didn't want to play music anymore with the band, and so we have we have always had Max Karen a part of the band. He wrote most of the music with John. In the early days, he's wrote music on all of our records. So when we were trying to figure out who we wanted to play guitar. I had kind of just called Max and I was just like, hey, dude, Chris decided he didn't want to be in the band anymore. You're going to be on the next tour, right?
Yeah.
And,
That is.
because he was always the unofficial sixth member and all of the guitar tones that, are on the record that are kind of like the Bad Wolves guitar tones have always been, Max's tones. The bass tone is a Max tone. Like even the bass tone that I use live is what we call the Max secret sauce bass tone.
The secret sauce. I love.
And yeah, so having him being a full-fledged member of the band now is another invaluable thing. Like I think we have between and I'm excluding myself out of this, but between Doc, John, Max, and DL, like all of those people have written music for the band. Like even before DL was in the band, he wrote music for Bad Wolves. You
Oh,
know,
know that. So that's sick.
yeah,
So
yeah.
he
He
was
wrote
kind of
he
like
wrote the
a weapon in a way.
yeah.
He was like behind the scenes. That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
What?
DL wrote the chorus for the Consumerist on our Nation record.
Oh, that's
Uh,
sick. So every really prolific songwriters in the band. That's awesome.
yeah, and
That's
some of the best musicians, that people may not know that are out there right now. Max's playing style is very unique,
mm,
and the way he approaches the guitar is different than anyone I've ever worked with. Like the only person I could really compare him to, who like how he approaches the guitar, is maybe like Devin Townsend or something like that. And not even that they have like similar playing styles, but just how they approach music in general. Um,
Mhm.
and I always tell Max, I was like, the only reason, I was like, the reason why you get that tone out of your guitar is because he has these big old plantain fingers.
Could be, yeah. Could have something to do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great tunes, and I'm rooting for you guys. I hope to chat again soon. Again, I
Yeah,
was
for sure.
on Kyle's podcast like a year or two ago, something like that. But yeah, now he got to do an episode of Communicate. Uh,
Yeah, for sure.
I'll try to like turn this into a written article for Guitar World. I don't know if they will do a bass thing, but I will try to work some magic there. See what I can get.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, cool. It was great talking to you. Have a swell rest of your day.
You as well. Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And thanks for
Right.
everybody who's, come and gone and checked in, and, be sure
Yeah,
to go check out, our new album, and, keep an eye out for some things that may or not be, coming soon. I don't know yet.
definitely. Or go follow Kyle, everybody. He's got a lot of
Yeah.
stuff. All right.
All
Talk
right.
to
I'll see you later.
you. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.